Okay, welcome back. This video is going to be how to create a basic bass sound patch in VCV Rack following our most basic synth patch. So again, I've created a new patch in VCV, and again, I'm just going to select everything and delete it. And right click, I've got my brand set to VCV because I'm only going to use the built-in sounds. So we'll start off as usual with a MIDI to CV object. And I'm going to set that to computer keyboard, mouse, and make sure it's at QWERTY keyboard US. If I had an actual physical keyboard on Mac, I would set that to core MIDI and then select my keyboard on the second line. On Windows, it would set it to Windows MIDI and then select on the second line. Since we need somewhere to go, I'm going to right-click and create Audio 8. For most Mac users, you would set the top line to Core Audio. Windows would be WAS API, and then you would select your device on the second line. Again, since I'm doing this with loopback recording, I'm going to do ASIO and then select my hardware interface directly on that second line. So we now have a inlet control for the keyboard and an output to the speakers. But we need to have a couple of things. So first I'm going to create a VCO. Then I need some sort of envelope generator. So I'm going to right click and create the ADSR. And I need an amplifier, so VCA. And you'll probably note that this is looking very, very similar to our most basic patch, but here's where it's going to get a little different. I'm going to right click, and this time I'm going to create a VCF, a voltage controlled filter. And these are all the modules that I really need. So I'm going to start by patching volts per octave from MIDI to CV to VCO. Then I am going to connect the gate of MIDI CV to the gate of ADSR and RETR, or retrigger, from MIDI CV to ADSR. I'm going to take the envelope output of ADSR and connect that to VCA, and then I'm going to drop the VCA down just a couple percentage. I will take the output of VCA and connect it to the input of VCF. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to take the, let's do the sawtooth wave, out of VCO in to VCF. Last but not least, I need to decide if I want to use a low pass or a high pass filter. I'm going to use the low pass, so I'm going to connect that to device 1 on Audio 8, which corresponds to my left speaker. Then I'm going to hold down Control, or this would be Command on a Mac, click it again, and take that cable over to device 2, which corresponds to my right speaker. Now, at this point, I should have sound. If I hit the tilde key, which is right above the tab on the keyboard, right next to number 1, I can drop down to a lower octave. Can increase the volume there, and we'll hit tilde one more time. That's getting bassy. Now, I do want this to be a little punchier, so I'm going to play with the ADSR envelope. I'm going to take the attack down really, really, really low to 1 millisecond. Way punchier. I'm going to take the decay down a little bit more, and I'm going to increase the sustain. And then I'm going to take release down just a bit as well. This is going to give me a really, really punchy sound. I might increase the release a bit. So kind of cool. With the filter, I'm going to increase the resonance amount to give it just a little bit more of a bump at the cutoff frequency. And then I'm going to increase the drive just a little bit. Which also amplifies and changes the sound just subtly. But there's one more thing I'm going to do that's going to be really cool. I'm going to hold down Control or Command on a Mac. I'm going to click on the envelope out of ADSR and take that over to the cutoff frequency of the VCF. So what's going to happen now is that the same envelope that controls the amplifier and tells it how to ramp up and then release when I release a key is going to also send its information to the cutoff frequency. So it's going to raise that frequency and then lower it when I release the key. But if I do it now, nothing really happens. It's not changing the sound. So what I need to do is I need to grab the cutoff frequency CV% modulation depth knob. Bit of a mouthful there. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to increase it. And about 24% seems to be the sweet spot for me. I really like how that sounds. I can play around with the res knob. And maybe with the drive a little bit more. Or I could play with the cutoff frequency. But I think I'm just going to leave that at the center. So doing that, I've created a basic bass sound. Again, I can use the tilde key to drop an octave on the keyboard, or I can use number 1 to raise it. I don't want to go too low, though, otherwise it becomes just rumbly noise that would come through really well on my subwoofer, but probably not through YouTube videos. But that is it for this video. That's just creating a very simple bass sound in VCV Rack.